Well, what it means has changed a lot in the last few years, and I think what it always meant it was a statue. It was the statue. It was the place. And every one of you have asked this question has I've quoted the song, Stinkin' Patrick's Bridges, Wicked House, Father Matthew Stickett. But it's changed a lot really recently now, where I've got this is the decade of centenaries and commemorations. I'm interested in the First World War and military history. And one thing that is really noticeable is that this is one of the very few cities where there's the main statue, the main public commemoration, is for somebody dedicated to peace. And you compare it with what it's matched with. The other end of Cork is the National Monument, and then the cenotaph for the Great War. Those are important commemorations, but it's, I think, a really good thing that this city is not dominated by war. That this is something I've only really begun to realise very, very recently. What a very positive thing it is to have somebody like that commemorated in such a central position in town.
And do you think it means anything to the modern generation?
I think until a year ago or so, I would have said it wouldn't have meant anything. I think that I would have been surprised if you said people didn't know what it was, though I think there are plenty of people who don't, in retrospect, talking to yourself. But what has changed in the last year or two would be, in a very indirect way, I have students who are studying English, who are interested in politics as well, and were very interested in the narratives of Frederick Douglass, since they were interested in the anti-slavery movement in the States. So I knew he came here, I knew he came to Cork, and I read about it a bit myself. And there was Father Matthew, and the man came to life. So you're suddenly seeing this man was a tremendous force for good. He's ecumenical, he's a social reformer, he's standing up in an age of institutional racism for freedom. So that is something I didn't know about, and I learned about in an indirect way through some of my students. So these are young guys, 18, 19, 20. So I think there is actually, at least in some places, there's a re-emergence of a knowledge about him, and from a very unexpected angle as well.
Now, you're a medievalist, so statues, iconography, all that is part of your daily life. Why do we celebrate statues? Is it important to celebrate a statue? Does it have a message for future?
Oh, I mean, think about it. Think about where the cenotaph is now, and wasn't on the corner there a statue of one of those Georges, King George of England. Look out for hireling King George of England. I think it was possibly him. That got ended up in the river, didn't it? So that tells you, if you want to know whether statues are important enough, that they are, if people go to the habit of destroying them. So to have a statue of somebody in the most prominent place in Patrick Street, and there he is, talking, you can see he's addressing, he's giving a speech. What's he doing? Even to ask that question, he's somebody with a message. And we're commemorating, and you just look at what the next several years, or 10 years, are going to be commemorations of war and rebellion and revolution and killing. So much of that. And here is a statue for somebody who was a tremendous force for good. So to commemorate him, I think, is an incredibly valuable thing. And especially you look at this particular year, you look at the results of the European elections, you look at the emergence of seriously nasty people, racism, whether openly acknowledged or not, seems to me to be clearly on the rise. And you go back to the 1840s, or that particular period, and you're seeing somebody in a sectarian age who was ecumenical, in an age of institutional racism where there was still slavery in America, somebody who was associating and standing up for freedom. So the idea that that man was associated primarily with this city is something tremendous. I think it should be commemorated.